Hi everyone, it's Lisa with 2 E's and welcome to my second podcast, episode 2 of an unnamed podcast. I still don't have a name, but I did put on my little self-made cover art, me and TV, but I know some of you might have a problem because it's grammatically incorrect, but I understand that. I know it's supposed to be TV and me, but I like me first. So I'm just going to keep it me and TV until I can figure out a name. If you have any suggestions, let me know. So last week I talked a little bit about why I finally decided to do this podcast because I was inspired by Schitt's Creek. Yes, somebody mentioned I just like to say Schitt's Creek. I do actually, and I'm hoping to get my friend Lori. She does not curse at all. I'm hoping that when I have her as a guest, I'll make her say Schitt's Creek. After I finished my first episode, my family and I were sitting around the dinner table. I told them I finished, and they said, "How did it turn out?" And I said, "I don't know." And then Brandon asked me if I was going to talk about Game of Thrones. He said, "You should do a Game of Thrones podcast." And I said, "No way. I'm not doing a Game of Thrones." And he said, "Why? It'd be good." Okay, so first of all, I do watch Game of Thrones, and you should too. I cannot do a podcast on the Game of Thrones because I do not know any of the characters. I'm serious. I know 2 people's name. I know Cersei, or is it Cersei? Cersei and, Jon Snow. Of course, everybody knows Jon Snow. Those are the only 2 characters. Yeah, I have watched every single episode. Well, wait a second. I really haven't. I have not watched this newer season, but I marathon watched every episode, but I do not know the characters' names. And that is true for almost every series. I cannot remember people's names. So who do I like on Game of Thrones? And this is about the limit that I'm going to go for here. I like the young girl of the first. The king was going to be the king. See, I don't even know how to explain Game of Thrones. See, this is why I cannot do a Game of Thrones podcast. But the young girl, the dark-haired who liked to do sword fighting, and she just went blind at the last season. I don't know her name. And then the big blonde lady who wears the armor. I don't know her name either, but I really like her. And to be honest with you, I forget a lot of the plot. Like, I don't even remember how she came to be on the show. So really, that's why I cannot do Game of Thrones. Plus, another reason is because there's 500 other Game of Thrones podcasts, and they're probably much more knowledgeable. I'm pretty sure they know the names of the characters that I'm talking about. And I remember Jaime Lannister. I remember Jaime. Anyway, I'm sure those podcasts can give you all the characters' names. I can give you 3. The same with Walking Dead. I know probably only from Maggie and before. I don't know the redhead guys, the mustache, like how does he get his haircut? I don't know the preacher's name. I don't know any of the characters. That's it. I don't know anything. So for me to sit and talk about Walking Dead, I really couldn't either, even though I do watch Walking Dead, which you should too. It's not really about the zombies. Well, it is about the zombies, but that's not really what the show's about. Well, I guess it is, but it's relationships included with zombies. So just watch it. Okay, wow. So full disclosure, I just deleted like a 5-minute rant, and I was ranting about DVRs and 2016 and watching TV and people spoiling episodes of particular shows. And I realized that I started sounding like Marin. And if you don't know who Marin is, he does have his own TV show, but he also has a podcast. And the TV show is pretty good. It's funny. On his podcast, he has some really great guests. And it's about an hour and a half long podcast, but the first 20 minutes or so is him like ranting and yelling and screaming. And I realized that that's what I sounded like. So I didn't want to get all angry, but I really was passionate about spoilers. I don't even like the word spoilers. And my cat's outside scratching at the door and yelling at me to come in here. Oh, you should see the setup. It's pretty bad. But anyway, it's in the corner of a room right now. And I'm wearing a blanket over my head. And my cat's scratching at my door. So I think I'd like to talk about something more positive, like Schitt's Creek. I hope you guys had a chance. That's my cat again. My cat. I hope everybody watched a little bit of Schitt's Creek. If you didn't get to marathon view the entire first season, and you do have a lot of the second season to make up, but I will tell you that this episode was pretty good. Just to let you know, the title of this week's episode was Moira's Nudes. There were 3 really good scenes, and I actually had to document my favorite lines at the time. Then I had to really think about it. I mean, this really is important. I even watched the episode twice just to make sure I pick out the right lines that capture the entire episode. I really have 2 that I can't decide between, and they're both, and the lines were both from Moira. And anybody who watches Schitt's Creek, you know the way she talks is half of the humor. It's so hard to imitate her. But the one line that I think was the best. Oh, well, let me go over the 3 scenes because the line comes from one of those. The first scene was with Daniel and his dad in the car when his dad tried to give him a hug. That was hilarious. And then the second scene wasn't so funny. I mean, it was funny, but sad and sweet and all that at the same time, was when Stevie and Moira were in the hotel lobby looking stuff on the computer. And then the ATM and the bank scene was really good with, again, Daniel and his father. I just realized that I kept calling David Daniel. David's the character who is played by Daniel Levy. So I got that confused. But anyway, it doesn't matter because his dad is his dad in real life and his dad is his dad on the show. So really, it doesn't matter. So I'm just going to read the line cold. And I don't even want to try to do it how Moira talks because I can't. Moira was talking to Stevie and she said to her, I know you think that, oh, I'm too spooky, or nobody wants to see these tiny boobies. That was her line. And that's why I can't, trust me, it was much funnier when Catherine O'Hara said it. That's why I'm not an actress, and she is, I suppose, but it really summed up the entire episode. Now, that's not to say that Daniel Levy, who plays David, didn't have some good lines. He had some really, really good lines, and I just love him to death. And as a matter of fact, ever since I became semi-obsessed with him, I've watched old videos with him, I've read interviews with him, and there was an interview on out.com where they asked him who his celebrity crush was. And I wrote down the quote. I'm not lying. I wrote down the quote because when I read it, I got so excited. And his response was, and I quote, "Every single person on Veep. I would date every single person on that show." End quote. Then I just really love him even more because Veep has probably surpassed Seinfeld. I think it might be my favorite show. I love that show, Veep. Now, it's in its, I think, 5th season. So I would never ask somebody to spend all of that time marathon viewing. You have things to do. I'm sure your kids need fed. But I would suggest if you have Amazon Prime, which you should because I instructed you to watch Schitt's Creek, which you need Amazon Prime for, the first 2 seasons of Veep are free. And then the other 2 you do have to pay for. And then the 5th season is currently on HBO, which again, I have not seen because I don't have HBO. Somebody gave me their HBO Go password. Thank you, Ryan. Yes, I will use it because I also have to catch up on my Game of Thrones. Really, it doesn't make me sad when I don't watch shows that everybody else is watching because I really, honestly, I really get excited thinking about spending a day marathon viewing on my tablet. And actually, that's my preferred method of marathon viewing. Not a TV. I like using my tablet. Don't ask me why. Maybe I feel like I'm getting more stuff done because I can walk around the house with a tablet, but usually I just sit on the couch in the morning room and watch. Veep, check it out. And I love you, Daniel Levy. I want to clear something up about something that was pointed out to me by a listener in my first episode. I was talking about why I was doing the podcast and my embarrassment about, going around a room, introducing yourself. And when you have to talk about your hobbies, I really don't have any. I should just make something up. I don't know. But I never tell what my hobby is, and I would like to say napping and watching TV because I love both of them. But I started talking about that's why I was making a podcast. I mean, why not turn it something positive? And I said, well, I was ashamed. And I didn't mean I was ashamed making the podcast. If anything, I'm nervous and excited to make the podcast. But the listener said, if you're ashamed to make the podcast, what are you saying about the people listening? And I immediately said, no. I'm ashamed about my level of TV watching. So I would never, as a matter of fact, you guys are great for listening. And I appreciate it. And as a matter of fact, I think if you're listening to this podcast, you're highly intelligent. So that's what I really think about you. I mean, you have to be intelligent if you're listening, as far as I'm concerned. So, and I'd never put anybody down who's listening to a podcast about TV. Well, that's it. I really don't have anything else to talk about. Remember to watch or catch up with Schitt's Creek. I'll be picking another favorite line, and it's sad to me, but there's only a few more shows left this season of Schitt's Creek, and I would love some suggestions from you all what to watch next. Maybe we can find a brand new summer show that nobody's seen and we can watch it together. Wouldn't that be great? I don't have my podcast set up yet, so if you have any suggestions, just put it in the comments box on YouTube. Thanks, guys. This is Lisa with 2 E's. Thanks for listening.